Hey guys, so it's bringing you another video. Now, welcome to a new champion video. I love doing these. Again, thanks to Riot for giving me the information early, but this one is like even a step above a normal champion video. As you all know, sometimes I get invited to the dev meetings of things that they're doing. We got last week invited to the pre-season dev meeting, or the week before. And yes, I got invited to the SANTE dev meeting, and I actually just left that. Apologies, I'm looking a little bit messy, but that's kind of why. And I wanted to record this video straight away because all the Q&A that we did with the people that made this champion is still in my head. So going throughout this video, explaining what this champion does, I can kind of go a step above just having the kit. I can explain some more things, and hopefully that's a cool thing. So I will say, as a cool thing, on top of that, we're actually going to do a giveaway in this video too. I always like doing giveaways because it's kind of like sharing what, you know, if someone can't get the new champion straight away, I'd like to give you the opportunity. So if you want the chance to win SANTE, the new champion, whatever skin he's getting at launch, they're keeping that quite quiet. All you got to do is be a subscriber, like this video, and comment down below what do you think of the champion. But make sure in your comment you leave your summoner name and your region, because obviously then I know who to gift. But before we get into the actual champion himself, I will bring up his splash art just so you can see what he looks like. Just to give you the initial pitch of what Riot said, the guy that made the champion by design, SANTE to him is in roughly the top 5% skill-based champions in the game. And yes, predominantly he is a tank top laner, and normally tanks aren't really seen as very skillful. The vibe of SANTE was basically to give tanks a skill-based champion, and they went kind of beyond the norm that, yeah, the main dev would put him in the top 5% of skill ceiling champions in the game. And he actually said he might be the one, or if not the, you know, he'll be among the top few hardest champions in the game when it comes to decision making, because he has ultimately very big decisions to make, and you'll see why when we get throughout this. But obviously, yeah, he's a really cool looking champion. His form is insane. It's kind of, you know, Hulk-like superhero ratios, but he's incredibly strong. He uses these massive kind of totem weapons, and he's from a brand new region, so they've never had this region before. He is the pride of Nazuma, and the kind of backstory very quickly is it's one of the main watering areas in like basically a desert, so that attracts, you know, a lot of competition, and he is the defender of it, so, or one of the defenders of it. So like massive monsters may come attack, void monsters may come attack, because it is a hub, because there's water there. He ultimately is a form of a monster hunter. His weapons are actually made by a massive lion thing he killed, and that's also part of their tribe, is you use the weapons of something that was your hardest battle. Whatever your hardest battle was, you build a weapon from the enemy, and that becomes your weapon. So very cool. But this, the way that we're going to do this, by the way, is going to be slightly different to normal. I'm actually going to show you his ultimate first, which I normally don't do, but it'll make sense very quickly, as I'll just give you a very brief explanation. It makes him change forms. With that, his ultimate, if I get the thing right, is called All Out. So yes, you might be thinking, what's going on there? So obviously this is him in game, by the way. You'll notice his weapons change appearance. So initially they're the totem's kind of blunt weapon, and then after he kicks an enemy through a wall kind of thing and then follows them, they become blades. So one of the biggest selling points to SANTE, he's not just a tank. So predominantly he's a tank, and he will be going Grasp the Undying. That's what the main dev said. I asked that question. He will be building tank. He likes health. He likes armor. He likes magic resist. His ultimate turns him into a skirmisher, and that might confuse people going, but he's a tank. His tank stats will transfer to skirmisher stats. So health, if you notice here, look, he's full health, and then he ults the Nautilus, and upon ulting, his health is capped at half of what it is in tank. So it's capped at half. Then his armor, his magic resist, etc., they get transferred to stats that a skirmisher wants. So AD, attack speed, etc. And I have to go through this ability first because this ability changes all of his kit, because his abilities gain extra strength or they change depending what form he's in. The form, by the way, roughly lasts 30 seconds. And the idea is it roughly lasts the length of a team fight. But maybe in some team fights, you want to stay the tank, you want to stay the protector. And some team fights you do. And the idea is, oh God, they've got that Yasuo on the enemy team that's really strong. K'Sante's whole ethos is, I will pick on that Yasuo, push him out with me, and you fight me 1v1. That's the whole point of what he's trying to do. So in the actual explanation officially of it is, K'Sante shatters his tonfas, that's his weapons, dealing physical damage and knocking back an enemy champion. Enemies that hit a wall will take greater amount of physical damage, are knocked back over the wall, and are briefly stunned. K'Sante then dashes after the enemy and goes all out for an extended duration. And then every single ability has an extra all out vibe. And the all out here is K'Sante loses a percentage of max health, which I believe is roughly 50%, bonus armor, and bonus magic resist. And then K'Sante gains attack damage, omnivamp, and transforms his abilities in a more aggressive manner. It is worth knowing, and again, this is what the value of the dev meeting is, when it says like the wall kind of like takes them through a wall. Yeah, the wall has no range. So if you ult them at a really weird angle, in theory, you could ride the whole outer wall of Summoner's Rift. It has no range. It will just go the duration of the wall. It's longer than Bard E. So kind of cool. And obviously there will be some angles that will be amazing to hit people to get them really far away. Think of it kind of as like a potential longer Poppy ult if it's a long wall, but K'Sante follows them. But it could be a little tiny wall if you don't ult them through a big wall, or if there's no wall, they'll just get knocked back a little bit. So that's the ultimate. Now we're going to get into the rest of his abilities that obviously now will make more sense because now you know the ultimate. So let's get into the passive, because it's weird to do this out of order. That is called Dauntless Instinct. Okay, so that's the passive. So it's more of a basic attack passive, as you can tell. So this is K'Sante damages abilities, mark enemies for a short duration. Attacking a marked enemy consumes the mark to deal damage plus max health physical damage. And then the all-out variant, so if you're in your ultimate and then you auto-attack someone with your, the passive, is when you're in all out, attacking a marked enemy instead deals physical damage and additional max health true damage. So again, he's a skirmisher. So it's kind of unique that he's a tank top laner, and tank tops can fight tank tops. But what beats tank tops? Skirmishers. He becomes a tank killer. So kind of weird and unique in that way. Also just worth knowing, where is he in terms of scaling, and like where is he in terms of lane bully potential? One, he is apparently more of an early game champion in the fact that he's a lane bully. His scaling isn't terrible, like he's a tank, right? But in late game, he will be very squishy. Like if you turn and focus him when he's in skirmisher form, you can kill him, unless he's very, very fed. But he'll be very tanky if he stays in tank form. And again, that's part of his skill expression of, does he go skirmisher form with his ultimate, or does he stay in tank form? That's part of it. But that is his passive. Let's move on over to his Q, which is Natofo Strikes. Really cool looking abilities, by the way. So Natofo Strikes is K'Sante slams his weapons, dealing physical damage in a small area around him and briefly slowing enemies as targets hit. If an enemy is hit, K'Sante gains a stack for a short duration, At 2 stacks, Cassante instead fires a shockwave that pulls enemies. And then the all-out variant, so when he's in his ultimate, is this ability's cooldown is reduced and no longer slows targets hit. Because again, slowing is kind of a tank thing, but you can do it, you know, more often. So again, to make it clear, I believe it's a low cooldown ability, fairly, and then you build up your stacks. So if you hit one, you can then, the next one, you get 2 stacks, and if you ultimately, you know, you keep hitting them, the final one is it pulls people towards you. Again, like a tank, you know, he wants people to fight him. That's his whole thing. Even in skirmisher mode, when he ults somebody, it's, hey, I'm taking you out here, fight me 1v1, bro. That's kind of the vibe. So pretty cool. I like it. W is called Path Maker. Okay, just to also make it clear for these clips, by the way, when his weapons are blunt, he's not in his ultimate. And when his weapons are blades, that's when he's in all-out form. So the clips are showing sometimes what both of the variants do. So to begin with, W is begin charging, is Cassante raises his weapons defensively for a short duration, becoming unstoppable and reducing incoming damage. When you release it, Cassante rams forward, dealing a % of max health physical damage, knocking back and stunning enemies he passes through for a short duration based on the charge time. So the longer you charge it, the more it'll do. But you could just briefly hold it if, you know, you're getting Syndra ulted, press your W, kind of like Master Yi Meditate, and you take reduced damage. In all-out form, is this ability's cooldown is refreshed. The damage reduction is increased. It deals an additional amount of physical damage based on the charge time, and the charge and dash speed are doubled. So it's just a better version of it, you know. And where it says refresh, because if you press W in a fight and then you ult somebody, boom, the ability straight back up after you've ulted. So that's kind of the combo that you'll obviously want to try and do, potentially. But yeah, so the all-out version is just a better version of it, which obviously is most of what this champion's about. But again, it does give him damage reduction, and that's kind of the nature. He is very squishy when he's in skirmisher form, but he has a damage reduction W, but you have to hold it. You're immobile when you're doing that. But he's unstoppable when he does that, by the way. So, yeah. Next one is called... where is it? There it is. It is called Footwork. Okay, so obviously some form of mobility. And this champion, by the way, for a tank has, as you can probably tell, a fair amount of mobility. But this E is Cassante dashes, gaining a shield for a short duration. If dashing to an ally, the distance is significantly increased and they are also shielded. Other spells can be cast during this time, or this ability. The all-out version is this ability's dash speed is increased, and dashing to a targeted location has increased range, and it now can go over walls. So the vibe, I believe, is in normal version, I don't think you can go over a wall unless potentially there's an ally there. You can just dash randomly, so as an escape, you can just use this E, but it's shorter duration, shorter range. But if you're going to an ally, it has increased range. It does have the jump or wall capability always to shield and try to protect them. Kind of like Brom in a way. But then the all-out version, again, it's a more aggressive version that you can jump over a wall always, and the duration is always bigger. So yeah, that is kind of the vibe. And then obviously we've gone through the ultimate, so that in essence is his kit. So very interesting champion. I will just bring his ultimate back up on the screen so you can just get the vibe of it more. Yeah, he's a very interesting champion. He he does look strong. I will say that his kit does seem strong. He seems very modern, you know, if that's the best way I can describe it. A modern damage skirmish tank, etc, etc. Yeah, he seems very modern. Someone actually did ask the question of why is it basically that to make a tank viable he needs to do damage, and the dev actually disagreed, and he said it's not the fact that we're making this champion because we feel this is the way you make a tank viable. It's basically this is just what they wanted to make. I've spoken about in the last few videos that have come out when it comes to new champions that one of the key themes that Riot kind of talks about whenever I'm in one of these new champion meetings is they want to try and create an archetype for everything. In like, oh, you like assassins, but you don't want to play support? Well, hey, there's Pyke now. He's an assassin support, so you can do that. Or, hey, you like AD carry, but you don't really want to play like a normal AD carry mid lane because they feel weird? Well, we've now made Akshan. That's what Riot is trying to do, is they're trying to give basically every role, every archetype you can play. And generally, the two main things of why he is the way that he is tank top laners and tanks in general aren't as seen really as skillful as most other classes in the game because they are quite basic. They're pretty one-dimensional. K'Sante is not that, you know, and I will 100% agree with that. He is not one-dimensional. He is very much layered, and it is going to be, you know, there will be games that a K'Sante will take over, and he's really hard to kill in either form. But there'll also be games that a K'Sante will completely throw the game by going in skirmisher form at the completely wrong time. Or the better thing for him to do was protect his AD carry, but instead he went skirmisher form and boom, he's dead, and then his AD carry's dead as well. And then the other thing, so that is one version of why they made K'Sante the way he is to give a skill-based top lane or skill-based tank. The other thing is, if you are a Riven player or a Yasuo player, a lot of the time you won't want to play a tank. Well, K'Sante now will probably be the tank that those players play. Because that was part of their design philosophy, is what if Riven was a tank? Or had a tank version? Kind of is K'Sante. That's kind of the idea of where they started with his kit. And it is worth knowing, someone always asks the question, how long did they take to make this champion? Typically, the answer is always about 8 months, I'd say. Yeah, K'Sante was a 1.5 years. So it is worth knowing they have been on this champion a lot. And he's really cool. I honestly, I do think he's going to be on the stronger side, don't get me wrong. But it's what they said, he's more skill-based, he's harder to play, decision-making is intense. So even though I do think he'll be strong, he'll be high risk, high reward, or high skill ceiling. So hopefully he won't just take over every game. He might at the beginning when they need to tone down his balance, is what I'm guessing. But ultimately, he will hopefully just blend in and not be easy. But I do think he'll be a cool addition to the game, no doubt. Yeah, I ultimately think he's really cool. So that is K'Sante. Anything worth mentioning else from the dev video or the dev Q&A? It's something just extra if you wanted to know. By his lore, he is the first black gay character that they actually have in the game. So he is confirmed, well, obviously he's black, but he is also confirmed gay. Someone did ask the question with his lore, does he have a boyfriend, does he have a partner? And they were quite quiet about it, in the fact that apparently we're going to learn about it in the future. So whatever that means, maybe an event is coming or something of that, we will learn about it in the future. But again, why not? Representation is very important. I know that generally the people that get upset about all that are the people that have been represented in the media the most for the last 100 years. So having representation across the board isn't a bad thing. It's a good thing. You know, me growing up, and I know I don't want to take this in a completely different way, but I saw myself represented on screen in video games or anything my whole life. So to give other representation is only a positive thing. We still have representation across the board or in one area very heavily, so it's only a good thing to see more. But that is going to be it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This was K'Sante. Hope, you know, let me know what you think of him. You know, hopefully he'll be balanced. I do think his kit is strong, and that's always sometimes to say is, you know, yeah, you can get numbers right and you can try to tone it, but his kit does look strong. But that's going to be it. If you guys enjoyed, do throw a like on it, throw a comment, throw a subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Call down the reckoning to bring back hope and peace. Restore our glory to live forever. us to order.